talking about what I do. I think we'll just do it. So I'm going to invite you to take a minute to get your supplies. Your supplies can be as simple as a pencil and a piece of paper. A pencil, a piece of paper. If you have some crayons or markers, you are all set. Pencil, paper, crayon, markers. Some of you are artists here, so if you have some watercolors and a little glass of water, that's good too. So we'll get started. We work in our doodling class. We call it doodling. We make it sound like it's not serious at all. But doodling, there's nothing more serious than doodling. It really helps us become grounded. For those of us who also work representationally, doodling is a relaxing time to step back from external observation to really focus on internal observation. So I'm going to assume you have your supplies. And you know what? If you don't have supplies, you can use your finger and work in the air. I'm not kidding. If you don't have supplies, whatever I invite you to do, the air is your canvas and you'll use your finger. So before we get started, we're just going to get grounded with what I call 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I invite you to look around your space and identify 5 things that you see. 5 things that you see. Now, of course, it can be interactive. If you want to unmute and shout them out, that would be fine with me. I see a tree. I see a clock. I see the floor. I see all my painting supplies. And I see one of my messy mandalas for messy times. Okay, and how about 4 things that you hear? 4 things that you hear. I'm hearing very slightly some cars outside. I'm hearing some static, not static, like the sound of the speaker. I'm hearing my voice, obviously. And I'm actually imagining that I hear the rustle of the leaves, but I don't think I'm actually hearing it. 3 things that you feel in your body. I feel my sit bones. Marcia reminded me to find them. I feel a little ache in my shoulder. I feel my feet on the floor. 2 things that you smell. Smell my coffee. I smell the freshness of the water. And one word that might describe what's helping you through this time. One word. Okay, so take your piece of paper. I could show you a lot of doodles that we've done over the years, but here's an example of a recent one. This is a messy mandala for messy times. But I'm going to start with a blank paper, and I invite you to take your paper, or if you're working in the air, and to write your word in the center. Write your word in the center. And one of the things that's getting me through this time is really love. So I've just written the word love in the center. And then I invite you to take your pencil, and you can just do this freehand. And we're going to do a messy mandala because these are messy times and we need to acknowledge the messiness. I'm just going to draw a freehand circle around the word, and then another circle, just drawing a lot of circles. It's kind of like a bullseye. I'm not used to drawing sideways, but that makes it even messier, so I'm going to say that makes it better. So you might decide to change your word. You might decide that what centers you is your favorite pillow. What centers you is helping your kitty get ready for school, or maybe going for a walk. So yeah, love is one thing, but maybe there's something else I might scribble in there that also helps me stay centered. Okay. If there's any questions or comments, I invite them, and you can just unmute yourself because doodling is really interactive. So I'm leading us through one of our doodle things, but you know, if you have any observations, feel free to unmute yourself and just chime in. So I have love at the center. I have a couple of other things written here in the center. They don't all have to be visible. And that's the other thing about Doodling Meetup. We're not explaining our work to each other. We're not analyzing it. I create a setting and a framework where people are free to have their own space. A lot of what people do in the class is very private and very personal. And so everything is optional. Every invitation is an optional one. So I ought to add that here as well. If you don't feel like drawing circles around your word and you want to draw rectangles, that's fine. Or if you don't even want to do that, you just want to scribble, that's also fine. That's kind of part of the doodling project, is that sometimes just being in the class is a motivator, or it creates a setting for doing something. So what I provide is an invitation, and the invitation can be interpreted in any way. So here we have what keeps me centered these days. I've got some circles, and then I'm just going to add lines. These can be, well, that one doesn't work. And here we go. So we have some lines. And I'm drawing the lines through the center. They're pretty messy. I'm not used to totally drawing sideways, but I have to say I'm kind of liking that challenge. Now gets into our messy mandala. We're just going to add some random, I know you can't see me, I'm bending down to get my materials. Here I am. I'm just taking a random gelato. The other thing we do in the Doodling Meetup is I share a lot of materials and supplies. I don't like to be fussy about supplies. I think you can make art with pretty much anything. But for those who want to develop technique and know more about supplies, I always do a lot of demos and stuff like that. So this happens to be a gelato marker, and I'm just going to make random blobs on my lines. The only thing that's kind of consistent is that I'm putting 2 blobs on each line. So if you are working at home, not working, I meant playing. If you're playing along with me at home, I hope you've, put your word, made your circles, made your lines, and now you're adding some blobs. Now, if you're working in the air, I know that sounds really ridiculous, but I'm going to encourage you to do it. What would that be like, working in the air? Well, if I'm in the air, here's my word. I've made my circles. I've made my lines. And now I'm going to have to sort of remember where my lines are, and I'm putting blobs on each of the lines. Now it gets really fun and intuitive when the doodling meetup crowd, we're very free. There's always a structure, there's always a plan. I always have, an actual technique that we're going to learn that day, supplies that we're going to explore that day. We usually have poems too, a poem that will inspire the theme. But today the theme is really working intuitively and working in a messy way. But then we drift way off of that. And that's really the magic of the doodling meetup. There's always a structure. As anyone who teaches knows that you need a structure, and then you need to be entirely free to let it go. All right, so I have my 2 blobs on each line. I'm looking at the pink, and I think I need something to contrast the pink, maybe like an analogous color. And because I'm working upright, I can't work in the drippy way that I like. So I'm just going to take this little tube of Liquitex, and I'm not going to water it down. I'm just going to squeeze it and see if I can connect some of these blobs. Blob is technical term in messy mandala.
I'm not sure if did she freeze for anybody else? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you're back. Sorry, you just froze just for a second, but you look like you're back to speed.
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks. Yeah, we actually had a lot of problem with our internet a couple weeks ago, and it turned out there was water in all the wires outside. Comcast came, spent 4 hours, and we have been excellent since. All right, so we've got the blobs. We've connected some of the blobs with the green. If you are working at home, let's see, I'm going to close some of my tabs because I am getting a message. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, you sound good,
good.
Eleni.
Okay, good, because I got a strange message on my computer. So I'm just, okay. So now I think I want to connect the bottom 2 blobs and then put a triangle to the green line. Let's see if I can do that consistently across. I don't know. Now, there's what happens here. If you want to know the neuroscience about it, the brain is very happy to have this repetition and the challenge of taking, the exact same, if you will, assignment, 2 blobs and a triangle. And every time you encounter 2 different blobs, they're in a slightly different location. So as random as this all looks, there's some very relaxing action going on. All right, I'm looking at my messy mandala, and I definitely need some yellow, or something resembling yellow. And if you are working at home with just pencil and paper, you can do all different kind of lines. You can do jagged lines, you can use dotty lines, you can use interrupting lines. If you're working in the air, I know that does sound ridiculous, but if you are working in the air, you're going to scribble all around your circle. And if you finish scribbling around your circle with your right hand, how about you use your left hand and in the air, do that also in the circle. I think I feel like I need some botanicals here. I definitely need some kind of flower in this middle. And I might decide at some point, whoa, okay. Yeah, you get a little messy with stuff here. I might decide, you know, after I color in my petals, my messy petals, the awesome thing about messy is you might decide when you're done, you know, I don't like it so messy. And then some real magic happens. Because you can cover things up. So if you know, if you're working, playing with your messy mandala and it's like, oh, you know, I don't really like that color after all. Well, that's why you have white. So you can cover things with white very easily, let them dry, and then you can start again. But I always encourage folks in my class to just work with what you have. If you don't like something, you know, that always comes up. It's like, oh, I don't like that. That's ugly. That's stupid. That's childish. And you know what? That's fine. I always, you know, for folks that are new to the class, the people that have been playing around with me for years, they know this already. So I try to say it in a different way each time. But, you know, we might have 6 or 7 people in the class. I said, it looks like there's only 6 or 7 people in the class, but there's actually about 12 or 14. And people are like, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, because each of us has an inner critic. And that inner critic is sitting right next to you, telling you, oh, that's not any good. That's kind of silly. Why are you bothering? You should be home doing something useful. And so we really do spend time, you know, figuring out how to deal with the inner critic. And the inner critic is a real thing, especially for those of us who've been making art a long time. And sometimes you just have to tell the inner critic to go sit over there in a chair, give them a book, give them something to do, and tell them to leave you alone. So you can be really nice to the inner critic, or you can just say, you know, enough already, just go. And we do have a lot of, we have kind of heartfelt discussions. They're just very spontaneous, heartfelt discussions about creativity and promoting creativity. And one thing that everyone knows, if they've played around with me long enough, is that it's not only that I believe everyone is creative, but it's actually true. Like, it doesn't matter whether I believe it or not. And it doesn't matter, you know, so we don't talk a lot of theory, but if people want the theory, I've got it ready. We just play around. So I think I'm going to just wrap this up for the moment. And what we would normally do in our class is, you know, after, you know, people have had a chance to, you know, to play around, and we walk around, we share our work. I invite people to take a minute on the back to answer possibly 3 questions. Describe what you did. You know, oh, I wrote a word, I put circles around it, I like whatever it is. It sounds very pedestrian, but it's very grounding. You know, what did you do? And then what did you feel like? How did you feel? Oh, I felt it was stupid. I felt it was silly. Oh, I felt it was great. I felt like a kid. I felt so free. Whatever it was. What were you thinking? Oh, I was thinking about I got to do the laundry. Oh, I was thinking how much fun this is. I was thinking, man, I wish I could do this all the time. Oh, I was thinking I wish I could quit my job, or I wish I hadn't lost my job. And none of that is shared. And I tell people, I'm going to give you 3 questions. They're just for you. We're not sharing this. This is for you. And then I invite folks to give their piece a name and to sign it and put a date on it. And I said, you know, you might decide 3 weeks from now to take it, tear it up, and use it in collage. That's fine. Or you might decide, you know, to throw it out. That's also fine. But if you're going to throw it out, I always tell people, save everything for a couple of months before you throw it out, because a couple of months later, you might say, ooh, that's going to be nice in collage. Now, something I'm going to do, because there is some wet paint on here, and then I'm going to wrap up because I'm mindful of our time. There is some wet paint. So let's see what happens if I fold this over and I get my my brayer. And this is called a monoprint. So that's a technical art term. And, you know, it's not, it didn't do anything like crazy interesting, but because we didn't have a lot of wet spots, but it did its job, which is, you know, now we've got some mirror images mixing up with our messy mandala. I'm going to finish by showing you 3 more messy mandalas from the past week, because messy times require messy mandalas. So here's a messy mandala. This one's more like a messy spiral. Messy spiral. That was fun. I did that after a work meeting. I needed a little decompression. Here's a messy mandala from last week. I worked a lot with wet ink. So wet ink is really, it kind of puffs up a little bit. So that's kind of cool. And one more I'm going to show you. I guess this is the one I showed you in the beginning. Connecting the blobs. And I think I'm going to stop there.